Hai Sobat Milenial, saya Sonya Michaella, jurnalis dari IDN Times. Saat ini saya berada di Kedutaan Besar Ukraina di Jakarta untuk mewawancarai Duta Besar Ukraina untuk Indonesia, Ambasador Vasyl Hamianin. Kami akan berbincang soal kondisi di Ukraina saat ini dan tentu topik-topik lain yang menarik. Halo Mr. Ambassador.
Halo,
Apa kabar?
Selamat sore.
Oh, selamat sore. Apa kabar?
Baik. Harga naik.
Yeah.
Kabar baik, harga naik.
Ambassador, it is almost 4 months after Russian invasion to Ukraine. Can you tell us on the situation in Ukraine now and how the Ukrainian cope with the situation?
Well, it might take a long time to describe the situation on all line of fire in Ukraine now. It's like the east and the south of Ukraine. Basically, the territory is occupied by Russian Federation, temporarily occupied, of course. And good news is that you can get the coverage of news from your colleagues, Compass reporters, who are two of them now in Ukraine, reporting every day. So you can pick up something from them, and also from other like world media. As far as I know, like dozens of reporters, like from BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, etc. They're working directly, like with together with our troops on the line of fire. So you'll have the first-hand information on that. But briefly, the situation is very complicated but stable, I would say, meaning that Russian troops are moving slowly forward, like a couple of meters a day, like pressing on Ukrainian army on the east. On the south, it's opposite process. Ukrainian army is liberating the districts and some districts of occupied Kherson and Zaporizhia regions. So they're approaching Kherson, basically the capital city of administrative center of Kherson region. So things going like this. The bad news is every day we have dozens of Ukrainians reported dead, killed in action, or injured. I know, unfortunately, I personally have many friends. Some of them died already, were killed, and some of them were injured, and some of them still fighting on this front line. The bad news is this. Another bad news is we still are very much concerned about the civilians on the occupied territories, because they are like in grave danger, not the safety but the lives, and it's like absolute tragedy for every Ukrainian that some of our citizens are still living on the occupied territories, those who failed to escape, those who failed to evacuate. Now, good news is Ukraine is receiving the military aid from the partners every day, nearly. We have some new arrivals, new surprises for Russian army, for Russian occupants. And while the Russian army is running out of resources in terms of new military equipment, new techniques, new tanks, etc., because they're being destroyed every day in packs, in bulk amounts, Ukraine, on the contrary, is receiving new and very precise equipment. So as an example, a couple of days ago, we had this military operation, very successful in Black Sea. So somehow, I don't know what the Ukrainians used, but they have destroyed the anti-air defense systems on our island of Zmyiny, occupied by Russians. They've destroyed just all the infrastructure they've built up within 3 months, and all the anti-air, anti-missile defense systems destroyed. After that, I don't know how, maybe it's missiles, maybe it's aviation, but we have attacked the, primarily they were the like gas drilling towers in the Black Sea Shelf, and during last few, maybe couple of years, they've been used as intelligence points for Russian army. So with radars and all that. So 6 were attacked. I think 6 were destroyed. That's good news, meaning that we have something that we didn't have even a few weeks ago. And also, I had the reports that some military objects on the territory of Russian Federation were destroyed. I don't know how. Some say it's drones. Some say it's like artillery, maybe something. It's not the civilian object; it's military object or the energy infrastructure, like the warehouses for oil and gas. So it's moving like this. It's not much progress to report, unlike the first days. But there is good signs that Ukrainian army is doing well, and after all, you see, we have absolute motivation to resist and to fight, unlike Russians who nobody even knows what they do in our country, right? So the morality, the motivation, and the level of equipment is on our side. What on Russian side is that they have a lot of weapons. They like, well, if the precision and the accuracy of our hits could be like 10 times better or 20 times better than Russian, but in number of cannons and number of missiles, we are numbered like 1 to 10, maybe 1 to 20 in some places. And also we are very much concerned about the fact that whatever happens in international arena, whatever happens in this battle on the east and south, if Russians have casualties or something, they immediately start bombardment of civilian objects in our peaceful cities. Like yesterday, there were a few strikes to Odessa. Odessa city is a Black Sea port city, very very famous and very old and everything. And yes, few objects were hit, and these objects are school, hospital, the small enterprise or something. So it's like terrorism. It's like they try to terrorize Ukrainian civilians, Ukrainian citizens from the first day of war by bombing schools, hospitals, and maternity houses, like churches and all that. So yeah, that's what they do. A state terrorist state of Russia, they just do terrorism. They are very capable of producing terrorism. Right? So that's the situation in brief.
Okay, so after you explain of all of the condition in Ukraine, how about the condition in Severodonetsk? Because almost all of the media said that Russians have captured nearly all part of the city.
Yes, this is the very important city for both for defense and for offense, right? So whether you go on attacking or you're trying to defend this piece of territory, this city is very important. Strategic position. It's like on the left bank of the river Siversky Donetsk, and the other bank is Lysychansk. It's also a big industrial town of Ukraine, not huge, but just an industrial town. So in Severodonetsk now, yes, I think the reports are accurate. Again, good news that not much civilians left in the city. They evacuated. So fighting is basically between the armies, which is good because if civilians no need to be protected by our army, the army will fight more efficiently. And nearly all the city means that there is a stronghold, we call it industrial zone of the city, where the many enterprises are situated. So this industrial zone of the city is under control of the Ukrainian army, and it's very well protected. It's like a stronghold because the plants and factories built in Soviet times, they all have this very solid concrete bases and all that. So people can find shelter in there. People can be protected by these concrete walls, but by concrete base. So it's very. I think it's good that we have this like industrial zone in Severodonetsk. So they are fighting bravely and very, very, very efficiently. So if you imagine, right, the offensive operation compared to defensive operation, right, it should be the number of attackers should be 1 to 3. Just remember Mariupol.
Yes.
Mariupol uh, has been uh, defended for 83 days,
Okay.
despite the fact that it was surrounded and not many people, and finally it was a stronghold. It's Azov steel plant, and they were defending till the last order to come out and save their lives. So the same is happening there, but I think that will not come to the point where when the defenders would surrender. They would just retreat if necessary. The main value of our for our government, for our army commanders, army chiefs, is people. So if you save people, if you save the army, if you protect civilians, then you can reconquer the cities, the territories. But if you lose people, you lose army, then whatever happens, you will not do anything. It will be a disaster. So we are trying to save every soldier, every officer, and every civilian to the extent we can. So if they receive the order to retreat, they would retreat. And yeah, so Severodonetsk situation is like this. Still fighting, still disabling Russians to build up the defensive lines or something. Still trying to protect this bit of the territory.
Okay. Today we know that today is a first day of European Union summit at Brussels. So can you tell us how the progress of Ukraine to join the European Union and how important it is for Ukraine to be the part of the EU?
Actually, yes, you were right. It's 2 day summit, and European Council leaders of European Union leaders gathered there mainly to discuss a couple of issues on cooperation and, of course, the future, like I would not say future membership, but the perspectives of membership for Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. 3 countries basically are under consideration, as far as I know, as far as I can remember. And yes, we expect a decision to be taken today. Let's hope it will be a good decision, right and supportive for Ukraine. So if we are approved to be a candidate for the EU membership, that will give great incentive for all Ukrainian state and for all the people, because really the European perspective has been the main foreign policy vector for Ukraine through years now. It's not just yesterday. It has been for a long time. I think that the first discussions about the European Union started like 30 years ago, after we declared independence, and people just started to open the eyes and to realize that Soviet Union was not just something good, and that European Union is something that really can be a family to us, unlike the Soviet Union. So at that time there was like half of the population were looking towards Russia, half of the population were looking towards European Union. So that 30 years ago it was a difficult situation, but now I think that I would say that the number of EU integration supporters will be close to 100. I don't know. Now it's not possible to make the inquiry, so a public inquiry, but I would expect it to be very high, very extremely high, because okay, let's put it from 2 points of view. One point of view from Ukrainian perspective, right? Of course, we belong to Europe. We have always been the part of European culture, part of European consciousness, I would say, to European spirit. We have always been like part of this language family also, and we have been like communicating, exchanging all the time through centuries. And unlike like with Russian, at that time it was Moscow Kingdom or something, um, where we had like we either were in state of war, like fighting for our independence, or we were in a state of slavery, right, like a colonial state, and we were under colonial rule of Russian Federation. So unlike Europe, we were very different attitude towards that. So perspective for Ukraine is obviously very serious, because if we, no, I would not say if, I'll say when we are the members of the European Union, of course, that will be a huge impetus for our development, is one. A huge impetus for our spiritual development too, because European Union is not only about the uh, prosperity and well-being. Yeah. It's also about the values. It's about the democracy. It's about the human rights. It's about all the other rights. All the what makes a country, any country, a civilized country. So when we are the members of the European Union, maybe in some years, 10 years, I don't know, maybe 5 years, maybe 2 years, maybe 10 years, it would depend on us, because a lot of reforms are required still. Now I think Ukrainian state system and governmental system, like I think we meet the 70% of EU's requirements toward that, toward reforms, toward the human rights, toward the copyright, for example, all that stuff. And we still have a lot of homework to do. It's like 30% still there, but we will do, I think the nation will push it forward and will join all the initiatives that our government will propose. So for us, it's just coming back home. For us, being a part of Europe is being a part of this big family and friendly family, will mean the economic integration, energy integration, like cultural integration, etc. So that will be the big project of everything, and this is from the prospect of Ukraine. But also, I would say that from the prospect of the European Union, that will be a great achievement, because Europe will be more and more united. The more united Europe is, the less threats, the less dangers can it be facing in future. Well, within the European Union, right, within this community, within this family, people just don't fight. People just get friends, and people just make trade, make cultural exchange, etc. Just education, labor force integration, etc. Everything. So for the European Union, I think it will be great achievement, and not only in terms of, again, of economics, but well, if you talk about this, natural resources. Ukraine is very rich in natural resources. Ukraine is very rich in land, so there will be like a common market for European market for food, for industry. Also, Ukraine, with its 40 million population, is not the biggest country in Europe in terms of population, but still, it's following the increase in or improvement of well-being of the citizens. The market will be very prospective and very attractive for also for European producers. So it will be, I think it will be the project. It is a project of, it is a mutually beneficial project for Ukraine and Europe. So of course there are some concerns of some leaders maybe about something, but I mean, what we do now is obviously fighting not only for Ukrainian independence, sovereignty, but for peace and stability in Europe too. Yeah. And we are effectively protecting Europe now from possible invasions or possible threats or possible provocations or possible blackmailing, which Russia has been doing for many years. I mean, the nuclear blackmailing, like security blackmailing, energy blackmailing, says if you don't do something, we will cut off the gas or oil. I mean, what is this? This is economic terrorism again. And if you don't follow our demands, we will, I don't know, hit any country with nuclear missiles. So to prevent this, we have to We have to be united. The more united we are, the stronger we are. It's for I think this principle of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika will be applied to the European Union too. So this is great principle. I just really admire it, and this is about united Europe. So different but united.
Okay, so in this month, end of the month, President Joko Widodo will visit Ukraine and meet President Volodymyr Zelensky. So how do you see the visit, and what's Ukraine expectation of Jokowi's visit?
Well, yes, I think it was yesterday that Yang Mulia Menlu Retno Marsudi on the press conference, declared, announced the visit, and also she described the reasons for that. So it's, I will not be repeating her words. You can read in that. I think it's like very comprehensive. How would I comment on that? This will be definitely a historical visit. I think from two angles. One is it will be the first visit in history of bilateral relations between Ukraine and Indonesia. So that will be a real breakthrough in our relations. I hope that this will be the first, but definitely not the last one. So we have to build up this communication, because our presidents visited Indonesia a couple of times, and this will be the first visit, right? So that's good. Second one is, from the second angle, is that it will be the first visit of Asian leader, head of state, to Ukraine since the beginning of the war. So this will be the sort of pioneering from Asia, which is very symbolic and very important indeed. It's always great to be the first, to do something good, to do something global, and I'm really happy that it's going to happen with Indonesia, between Indonesia and Ukraine, because, as I repeatedly mentioned it in my previous interviews, like from March even. However, I've been working in Indonesia now for a long time, but what I discovered for myself, that the notion that widely accepted notion that Indonesia is a regional leader is already not very precise, because Indonesia just this time, these months, is turning into the global force, the global influencer, one of the global leaders, and it's so obvious because it became very obvious when Indonesia became the president of the G20, and next year it will preside in ASEAN. So the ways Indonesia is presiding in G20 shows us that this country, your Tanah Air, is turning into global force, which is great. And I would say that visit of President Jokowi to Ukraine in this period of time, so difficult for the humankind, I would say, shows that he is a real leader of a global force, of a global influencer. This is great. This is something that worth demonstrating to the world, that we are leading. We are not hiding. We are not keeping silence. We are trying to do global things, because like it or not, but what we have in Ukraine is a third world war. People asking me, do you expect the third world war might start? I say it started already, because so many countries are involved, and even more countries are influenced by that. It's not like, two countries are having conflict or something, and it's not a conflict. It's not a conflict. It's just like half of the world is fighting against the neocolonialism, Russian neocolonialism. It's like a Russian invasion in Ukraine is an attack of colonialism onto democracy. I hope it is the last colonial war in history.
We move to G20 issues. We know the grouping itself is not about politics and security.
Yes.
But as the following situation in Ukraine now, and Indonesia is the president of G20, and how do you see Indonesia involvement on Ukraine on the G20?
Yes, you're right. G20 is, I think G20 is, of course, the main concern of Indonesia now, because of Indonesian presidency there. So it's grave concern of the government because, like a leading force, basically all the agenda declared within the presidency are now under threat. Every single point, like health architecture, like energy transition, like digital transformation, everything. And we have a couple of questions added up, like food security, logistics, etc. So yes, G20 is not a grouping dealing with security issues or political issues primarily. But my view is, it's my personal view, right? Because how I see the world security architecture now, it is stuck and blocked because the aggressor here is the permanent member of Security or UN Security Council with the veto right, and whatever initiatives to stop the war, to bring peace, to restore security will be vetoed by Russian Federation, right? So UN now proved itself like useless and toothless, and it cannot do anything tangible, anything concrete. So in this situation, in this, I would say, the global trust crisis and global diplomacy crisis situation, I would say that might be only two options. It's either G7 or G20. And I would incline toward G20 because it has a wider representation. It's like more similar to the United Nations, because G20 plus all the invited countries will like adds up to like G30 or something. So it's like an organization with wide representation from all the regions of the world. So and I think that since they represent the leaders of the state represent the countries which are effectively decision makers for world economy and for world health system, etc. They can make very important, crucial decisions for the world destiny, for the destiny of this world, for the destiny of global security system also. That's why I think that to some extent G20 may, led by Indonesia as a president, may discuss and approve certain decisions that will put the end to this war, that will make the Europe and make the world safe again, make the world and Europe and the world moving forward again, developing again. So it's G20 whose decisions, I think, it's reality now. Okay, so the reality is G20 has to deal with this somehow, has to face this challenge, and has to take appropriate decisions to change the situation into normal, into better, into get the world back to basic principles: development, prosperity, cooperation, etc. So that's what I expect from G20, and yeah.
Okay. The last but not least, other than G20, so can you give underline about other views and expectation on how Indonesia could play a role in helping Ukraine?
Well, it's you see, this question is so big, and it is really up to the Indonesian government to decide how it can help Ukraine, because at present time, many people used to say that, oh, it's like they call the war in Ukraine is like Ukrainian crisis. It's not Ukrainian crisis, but Ukraine is facing humanitarian crisis at present, meaning that half of eastern part of Ukraine is destroyed. Many cities are destroyed. Over 10 million of maybe 15 million now of Ukrainians displaced or evacuated to the to the European countries and elsewhere. So there are like what, maybe 6 million of refugees now in Europe and other countries of the world. So we are facing this humanitarian crisis. Then we have I think should be hundreds of thousands of injured and wounded in the operation, both military and civilians. We also have the very serious problem of the victims of violence, because on the occupied territories, Russian troops committed a lot of sexual violence against Ukrainians, against girls, against boys, even against just citizens, and these people need recovery, need psychological treatment. It's very serious, as you can imagine. After this, we also have we face the problem of humanitarian demining of the land. You see farmers wearing the protection vests and helmets, and moving with iron shields, and moving across the field to put the crops, put the wheat into the ground. You see, because there could be mines, and there are mines. Another point is the rebuilding of Ukrainian infrastructure, and again re-equipping the hospitals destroyed, rebuilding the plants and factories to restart the economy. So this will need billions of dollars, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars, and of course this will be the challenge for the world, because this will be covered by Russian Federation money, by the economy of Russian Federation to the great extent, but also it will be not enough. So obviously that we will need the assistance and help from that. Then, as I mentioned, the treatment of wounded and injured people, the treatment of orphans, kids who became orphans during this war. This can be a very good humanitarian support for Ukraine. Of course, providing the medical aid, providing food, some food, food boxes for the army, for example, or for the refugees, for displaced people. This is one part. Then providing the military equipment, weapons or ammunition for the army, or something for the army. For example, not weapon stuff like helmets, like medical aid kits, yes, for the soldiers. There are special ones, not like ordinary ones. Then providing protective vests, etc., etc., etc. So, like, I don't know, the devices of night vision, the radars, maybe drones, anything that you will feel appropriate. So it's a great field for making decisions and for choosing the appropriate tool of supporting Ukraine, of helping Ukraine. We have a lot of countries helping us a lot, really, and we do hope that Indonesia, like a great world economy, I think is like within 10 or 7th or 8th, like that. So it's like in a G10,
Yes.
in terms of economy. So this economy is capable of many things, and of course, give you some idea on that. Rebuilding Ukrainian economy. From the first glance, it will look at like we will pay for something. In fact, it's like investing into something, because Ukraine is capable of producing a lot of nice things, and we had like a trade turnover of over $1 billion annually, and I think that by assisting Ukraine to recover the economy, to recover the industry and all, will bring greater good for Ukrainian citizens too, for Indonesian citizens, and for Indonesian economy, and for Indonesian prosperity, etc. So it's always good to help friends, because you'll get the help like 10 or 100 times as much as bigger than you give, right? If you give, you'll get back, obviously. It's like a rule of good. It's rule of good. It's rule of human world. So anything, I would expect anything, and of course, the main thing I would expect, as I mentioned, to contribute to the end of the war, to contribute significantly. This is the main thing today. Everything else will come after this.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your time today, and also Indonesian hopes the best for Ukraine and
Merdeka.
and Russia could end the war. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
How do you say? Tetap semangat.
Yes, tetap semangat. Demikian wawancara saya dengan Duta Besar Ukraina untuk Indonesia. Sampai jumpa di wawancara selanjutnya. Terima kasih.